Welcome to Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube video podcast where we explore all things cinema. What a blow to lose Gena Rowlands yesterday at 94 years of age. Not long ago, it came out that she was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And this one hit hard because she was such an inspiration to me. And clearly, many others. I mean, I have the amount of tributes that I've seen poured in on the internet and social media are endless, which is fantastic to see. I mean, I knew that she had inspired many people and that a lot of people looked up to her and her talent and everything. But it's really something else to see so many people touched by this wonderful actor. And when someone on my Facebook commented on my post about Gena dying, saying it's like a family member dying, and which may sound extreme in a sense of someone you've never met personally, but we have these kind of relationships with artists or people who we admire for what they do in their career, perhaps, or even in their lives, and it can feel like you know them in a sense when you read about their lives or know their work so intimately. And so I know exactly what she means. And also because Gena was such an incredible actor that when you watch her on screen, her performances are so rich, so committed, so truthful. She literally lived the parts on screen. And the great acting teacher Sanford Meisner defined acting is the ability to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances, meaning that you're not faking it or acting it or pretending, even though it's imaginary, but it's the combination of doing things which are real under a circumstance which is an imaginary circumstance. So how does an actor do that? Well, how do you be real? You can listen to the other actor, which will make you react. You can try to get them to do what the character wants in the scene, because in scenes often the characters want the other person to do something. And so by doing all these things for real and having an understanding of what the character wants in your own heart and body and emotional life, then it's real. What you're experiencing is real. And so you live it. It's happening to you when you are being filmed. This is happening to you right now. You are living and breathing it. Or if you're doing a play or a television show, anything. And that's what she did. And she did it as, she's one of the greatest actors of all time. It doesn't get any better than her performances in A Woman Under the Influence, Faces, Minnie and Moskowitz, Gloria, Love Streams, Another Woman. We can go on and on. These incredible, flawless performances that she gave over the span of her entire career. It's really quite extraordinary. And of course, the work of with her husband, with Cassavetes, is what is discussed the most. Rightfully so, but she was in over 100 films and television shows, and there are certainly notable performances in things like Night on Earth, for example, and Another Woman, which I just mentioned, and in the films that she did with her son, Nick Cassavetes, like The Notebook. There's another incredible performance she gave in a film called Hysterical Blindness with Uma Thurman and Ben Gazzara. Ben Gazzara, of course, was a frequent collaborator of Cassavetes and Gena Rowlands. That's a fantastic, really underrated television movie. So she gave, so many phenomenal performances. And it's incredible what she could do with the smallest of reactions, because in a film like Faces, for example, she plays this sex worker named Jeannie, and she is with this character played by John Marley Richard, who is at her place. This is towards the end of the film, and he's at her place, and he's, they're kidding around and making each other laugh, and then he suddenly says something along the lines of, "Just be yourself." And he's gentle about it and sweet. He's not mean or anything, but you see how much it hurts her feelings, and she tries to hide it from him. but it's vividly on her face, but she tries to not show it, and then she goes into the other room and her back is to the camera, and then as she turns, tears rolling down her eyes, right? And so you can't help but wonder, what hit her so hard. Is she concerned that she's going to lose him because he's an ongoing client, and so she can't show her vulnerability, and that's why she had to run out? Or they do have a certain rapport and chemistry and connection, and I think honestly he just hurt her feelings and just basically she took that as saying, well, you're saying that I'm fake, in other words. But in a lot of Cassavetes films, they're really complicated, and nothing is just a simple motivation. The audience really have to think later on about why the characters are reacting the way they are, or what's motivating them, and things like that. But what another thing that's so inspirational about Gena is that some of these films are with Cassavetes that she was in were independent. Cassavetes is the godfather of independent movies, as we know, but not all the films he did were completely independent films. Some of them were produced by the movie studios, but some of them were completely independent, like A Woman Under the Influence, Faces, Opening Night. So you think that you're making these movies independently, and there wasn't as many independent films then as there are now. And so, now people, that's often the only option, is to make something independent. But back then, you never knew if these things would see the light of day. And so often she's giving these performances in like something like A Woman Under the Influence, which is so raw and passionate and complicated and intense, and not knowing whether anyone's even going to see this movie. But her and Cassavetes didn't make these movies for awards and big money prizes or big box office receipts. They made it because they were artists and they wanted to tell these stories. And these parts she played, I know I mentioned some of the titles before, but just so we really get down to all these movies. We have Shadows, she was actually in briefly. Just a non-speaking part. You can see her for a second, and then we have A Child Is Waiting. After that, Faces, Minnie and Moskowitz, A Woman Under the Influence, Opening Night, Gloria, and then Love Stream. So she was in almost every single movie that he wrote and directed, and often he wrote them for her, and they're I remember when I first saw Woman Under the Influence, I just didn't even think I was watching acting. And not just her, but also Peter Falk. They were the most incredible performances I'd ever seen on film. And even Peter Falk didn't think she was acting. The scene where she's really losing it when, as her husband, he's having her committed to a mental institution, he thought she was really losing it. It is really absolutely stunning. And it's also a testament to Cassavetes, the freedom he gave actors in terms of not having marks, so they can move where their instincts guided them. And there was just those scenes were blocked, but there was a looseness to it, that sort of gives actors a certain freedom. And when you have that freedom, your acting is often better because you're not concerned with anything technical. And that's what he wanted for the actors, to just be concerned with their performances. And I think that's why that adds so much to why those performances are so real. But not only that, as much as we talk about the intensity of those performances, she was often very, very funny. Mabel in A Woman Under the Influence is hilarious from the first time you see her, and she's so frantic and getting the kids ready and putting them in the car, and she's this woman who loves her family so deeply, and there's so much humor in that film that often John Voight said that he was often, when he would watch Cassavetes films, he would laugh, and that's something that's often overlooked in his films. Yes, they're very intense, and the vulnerability, and they're very emotional and raw, but there is loads of humor. If you look at something like Love Streams, for example, she has a scene where, her therapist, after she gets divorced from who Seymour Cassel plays at the beginning, he's her ex-husband, and then a psychiatrist tells her to go and meet men, have sex, just get back to living and try to forget about your husband for now because that's over. And she just does all these quirky things, like she goes to a bowling alley to look for guys, and she's like dressed to the nines, and she says to the guy when she gets their shoes at the table, the bowling shoes, she goes at the table, she goes, "I'm here for the sex," it's something like that. And just quirky, really. I mean, it's also a testament to the writing. I mean, Cassavetes, he just really believed that people were, crazy in a lot of ways, or it goes to the title of that great documentary, I'm Almost Not Crazy. And, and the characters in his films are often impulsive, and they're all often, for better or for worse, they are trying to make their relationships better, and they're trying to make themselves better. And so they don't dwell or think about anything. They move. They try things, and sometimes those things that they're trying are absolutely crazy. You look at something like Gloria. I mean, what a performance! Where she's this female, one of the only females in the film, really. There's a few other women in the film, but it's all these tough gangsters, and here she's like this gangster mall, and she is as tough as nails. I mean, she literally is intimidating and threatening and scaring the guys, all the men around her. I mean, it is really something else, but she had that level of intensity in her, and that's why she was able to be so convincing as someone who can be threatening over these male gangsters. I mean, it's really quite stunning. And then, of course, you have opening night, which, again, has its share of humor. And she's playing this, Broadway star who's aging. And on the one hand, she can't play the part that she's playing as a woman aging. And on the one hand, she can't accept that she herself is aging. So she's often blowing rehearsals or blowing performances. And, you see at the end, she shows up totally hammered, which is tragic and funny at the same time. She plays drunk really, really good as well. But it's also because she honestly didn't think the play was very good. So she's trying ways, whether she's dropping into improv, and I mean, you really shouldn't do because it disrespects the writer. That more, I know in theater that's a real no-no. But she's changing the lines. There's that really great scene with her and Cassavetes on the stage towards the end where it's a total improvisation, and they're both hilarious in that. And they didn't tell the audience, "Oh, you need to all laugh when we're up here." They just laughed. I mean, that's the thing with Cassavetes. He's capturing what's real in the moment right now. And they are hilarious on the stage. I mean, their rapport was stunning. And, they did other things, like she was in Johnny Staccato, the TV series he did. They were also both in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which is really, really good, by the way. 2 Minute Warning. They didn't have a scene together, but they're in that together. Machine Gun McCain. She's in as well, and they just work together constantly, and you can feel it. You can feel the trust. She would say sometimes she didn't even know what he was going to do sometimes when the cameras were rolling. And in fact, in Minnie and Moskowitz, he plays her abusive lover in that, and she didn't even know he was playing that part until just before they rolled cameras, because he knew that was gonna drive her nuts, which added to the fury she has towards him in that scene where, he hits her, and it's quite violent. It's a scary scene in a lot of ways. But I mean, that's like that, as Cassavetes said, Minnie and Moskowitz is a take on the screwball rom-coms of things like that you would see with Carole Lombard. And, she would have been perfect in the 1930s in those movies, because that's basically a Cassavetes take on a screwball. And her and Seymour Cassel are hilarious in that. Not just hilarious, but also incredibly vulnerable, raw, intense. There's so much emotion in these movies. I also love the scene between her, Seymour Cassel, and then John Cassavetes' mother, who played Seymour Cassell's mother in that, and then Gena Rowlands' real mother played her mother in that, and they have an incredible scene after, right before they get married. They're going to get married, and meeting of the families. It is, you will be laughing hysterically. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. So as you can see, I can go on and on about this. And I've also, I was also fortunate to meet people and interview them who knew her and worked with her. Dylan Murphy, who is Seymour Cassell's daughter, and she was one of the babies at the very end of Minnie and Moskowitz as well. Yeah, she said Gena was always so nice to her. She did a really lovely post on Instagram about Gena and how nice Gena always was to her. Leslie Hope, the director and actor and producer who was in Love Streams, we talked for hours about 6 years ago now about, she was in Love Streams and she signed my Criterion and she said, make a film, make John proud. Thanks for a great night, which was super sweet of her. But yeah, she talked endlessly about Gena Rowlands, and she, everybody, if they weren't acting, then they might have been on the crew, and then she sometimes was putting the microphone on Gena, and then she ran into her years later and told her how much that experience meant to her, and Gena just turned to her and said, me too, and they both, their tears came to their eyes, and they worked together on something else, actually, I forget what it's called, but they did another film together many years later, and they talked in length about the movies with John. But this is the thing, Cassavetes and Gena, I think they both knew, that if they were going to play great parts and tell great stories about ordinary working class people, or ordinary middle class people, that the kind of people that often Hollywood ignore, they were going to have to do it themselves, and that was sort of shocking at that time. And very few people did that in the 60s and late 50s when Cassavetes started making movies. Now everybody, like I said, everybody makes their own films. And so and that really still holds true. The industry often doesn't offer you great parts, and your artistry is often compromised, and they didn't want to compromise. And without these collaborations, they wouldn't have been nearly we wouldn't be talking about them nearly as much. Let's put it that way, is the best way I can put it. So, it's sad because she's also the last of the main players of those Cassavetes movies who frequently collaborated with Cassavetes. That she's like the last. She was the last survivor because Peter Falk died a while ago in 2011. Ben Gazzara died in 2012. Seymour Cassell died about 5 years ago. And now her, but her movies will live on forever. Her stunning performances will continue to inspire actors who are, whether you've been working for years or whether you are a new actor. I think they will supply constant inspiration moving forward. So this is my tribute to Gena Rowlands, who will surely be missed. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link, patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. Patreon is exclusive content that I create month in and month out. And as a subscriber, you are able to vote on polls and contribute to what I do on Patreon month in and month out. So head over to the link for full details. You can also leave a donation directly to my YouTube channel by pressing the thanks link, which you will find directly below the video frame. Just click on the thanks link and you can leave a donation there if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. It is absolutely free to do so. By pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the movies logo, you will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left. In just a second, just click on that and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new episodes. Also click the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of this episode. Also, you can also share the episode. All of these things are what produce traction to my YouTube channel. So I appreciate you watching and thank you again. And I will see you in the next episode.